If a person truly starts life from zero, it is not merely a circumstance, it is a crucible, a rare opportunity to forge habits, your mindset, and resilience that most people never experience. Life at zero removes distractions, forces clarity, and demands action. The first step in this journey is understanding that income is the foundation of freedom. No wealth can be created without an initial inflow of resources, and this is why taking any available job, however small, temporary, or unremarkable, is essential. The psychological challenge here is immense: to accept work that may feel beneath ambition, that may test patience and humility, while simultaneously visualizing a long-term trajectory where this temporary state is the launch pad for extraordinary growth. Discipline in this phase is paramount. Every dollar earned must be treated not as spending power, but as building blocks for a future that is independent, resilient, and abundant. The human mind naturally desires immediate gratification, social recognition, and comfort, and resisting these impulses is the first major hurdle. Living on the bare minimum is not deprivation, it is strategic allocation of resources toward the compounding engine of wealth. Housing must be minimal, food basic, transportation optimized for cost, and all non-essential spending eliminated. The goal is not misery, but laser-focused resource management that enables savings to accumulate rapidly. Every extra dollar saved becomes seed capital, every hour of effort compounds, and every skill learned adds leverage that multiplies future earning potential. At the same time, one must commit to relentless learning. Human capital is the most potent currency in modern economies, far more reliable than luck, inheritance, or speculation. Knowledge is free, widely available, and increasingly democratized through online platforms, forums, and open-source resources. The focus should be on acquiring skills that are directly monetizable and in high demand. Coding, digital marketing, data analysis, sales, financial literacy, and communication are examples of domains where effort translates directly into income potential. Mastery is not the immediate goal. Competency is sufficient at first, as experience will refine skill over time. Parallel to skill acquisition, understanding money itself, the principles of compound interest, investment budgeting, and wealth preservation is essential. Many fail not because they earn too little, but because they mismanage what they earn. Knowledge of finance allows one to convert meager initial earnings into sustainable long-term growth. Investing early, even with small amounts, is critical. The compounding power of capital cannot be overstated. A dollar invested today in low-cost index funds or diversified portfolios can grow exponentially over decades, far outpacing what could be earned by incremental increases in wages alone. Time in the market, not timing the market, is the principle that must govern decision-making. Risk is an inevitable part of investment, but calculated risk with a long horizon transforms volatility into opportunity. The psychological discipline to continue investing even during market downturns distinguishes those who build wealth from those who remain stagnant. This is where patience, resilience, and strategic thinking converge. Many are tempted by speculative avenues promising instant gains, cryptocurrencies, penny stocks, or high leverage trades. While occasional success may occur, the long-term probability overwhelmingly favors consistent, disciplined investment in diversified assets. In other words, the slow, steady, methodical approach, often perceived as boring or unglamorous, consistently outperforms schemes driven by hype, emotion, or greed. Parallel to earning, saving, and investing, the individual must cultivate habits of extreme efficiency. Time is a non-renewable resource, and how it is allocated directly affects long-term outcomes. Productivity should be treated as a skill. Every waking hour should either generate income, build skills, or enhance understanding of wealth creation. Idle time is the silent killer of ambition. Physical and mental health must also be maintained, as energy and focus are the fuel for consistent action. Exercise, diet, and sufficient rest are not luxuries but strategic imperatives. Emotional discipline is equally critical. Frustration, envy, and distraction are constant threats, and the ability to remain focused on long-term objectives despite short-term discomfort is a defining trait of those who build wealth from zero. Social pressures, peer expectations, cultural norms around lifestyle, and the allure of conspicuous consumption must be resisted. Choosing minimalism and delayed gratification does not mean rejecting joy. It means postponing temporary pleasures to secure enduring freedom. The trajectory from zero to financial security is not linear. There will be setbacks, failed attempts, temporary losses, and moments of doubt. These are not signs of failure but essential tests of resilience and adaptability. Each obstacle is a lesson, each difficulty a chance to refine strategy and reinforce discipline. Mentorship, observation of successful individuals, and learning from the mistakes of others accelerate this learning curve. One must constantly evaluate income potential, skill relevance, and investment strategy, adjusting as opportunities and circumstances evolve. Networking, when aligned with genuine learning and value creation, becomes a multiplier, opening doors that would otherwise remain closed. However, networking without value or preparation is wasted effort. Value creation precedes opportunity. Effort without direction is noise. Ultimately, the journey from zero is as much about mindset as it is about action. The individual must internalize that small, consistent, disciplined actions compound into extraordinary results. Living below one's means, continually learning, investing wisely, avoiding debt, resisting instant gratification, and strategically increasing earning potential are the pillars of this transformation. Many read or hear these principles and underestimate the commitment required. They desire wealth, but not the disciplined path that produces it. The rare few, however, embrace discomfort as the vehicle to freedom, understanding that the sacrifices of early years yield decades of financial independence. Every dollar saved, every hour spent learning, every investment made is a vote for the future you intend to live. Zero is not a limitation. It is the blank canvas upon which a masterpiece of wealth, freedom, and security can be built, provided one applies knowledge, discipline, and patience consistently. Once the foundation of basic income, disciplined saving, and early skill acquisition is established, the next stage of building wealth revolves around strategic career acceleration and the deliberate enhancement of earning potential. At this stage, mere survival and minimalism are no longer enough. The individual must consciously transition from entry-level roles to positions that reflect their growing capabilities and provide a meaningful increase in income. This requires a combination of applied skill, market awareness, and consistent self-assessment. One must continuously identify sectors and roles where demand exceeds supply, where compensation reflects not tenure but value delivered, and where opportunities exist to leverage both technical proficiency and interpersonal effectiveness. The importance of timing and preparation cannot be overstated. Being ready to step into a higher paying role months or years before it is available allows a person to capitalize immediately when opportunity arises. This proactive stance distinguishes the strategically minded from those who drift passively, waiting for luck or connections to appear. To maximize this transition, detailed research into industry standards, required certifications, and the trajectory of specialized skills is essential. One must evaluate which competencies are not only relevant today, but likely to remain in demand over the next decade, balancing immediate income gains with long-term security. At this stage, the principle of leveraging human capital becomes central. Human capital refers to the aggregate value of skills, knowledge, relationships, and experience a person brings to the table. Unlike physical assets, human capital appreciates with use and investment. Continuous learning, whether through structured courses, mentorship, or self-directed study, enhances human capital, which in turn increases the ability to command higher compensation or entrepreneurial opportunities. Importantly, the individual must adopt a high-intensity learning schedule, allocating significant portions of time outside of work to mastering new techniques and improving existing ones. This is where sacrifice intersects with strategy. Evenings, weekends, and even early mornings become opportunities for focused growth. Mastery is approached incrementally, recognizing that initial competence is sufficient to secure better opportunities, and refinement occurs through practice and feedback. The discipline to maintain this schedule is what separates those who achieve exponential growth from those who plateau. Simultaneously, the ability to apply learned skills in tangible ways through small freelance projects, consulting, or side ventures reinforces retention, builds confidence, and produces tangible results that can be leveraged for larger opportunities. Another critical aspect of this stage is financial literacy and investment strategy refinement. Having initially invested in low-cost index funds or other diversified assets, the individual now begins to deepen understanding of asset allocation, risk management, and the long-term compounding effect of reinvested returns. Diversification remains key, but the approach shifts from purely passive accumulation to a more strategic view, considering tax efficiency, potential alternative investments, and the role of reinvestment in accelerating wealth accumulation. Simultaneously, a clear distinction between assets and liabilities must be maintained, ensuring that every financial decision contributes to net worth growth rather than lifestyle inflation. The human tendency to equate income with wealth is particularly dangerous during this phase. Substantial salary increases are meaningless if matched by proportional spending. The disciplined individual maintains minimal lifestyle expansion, ensuring that every increase in earnings translates to savings and investment rather than ephemeral consumption. Parallel to career growth and financial strategy, networking and reputation building become critical. Strategic relationships in one's chosen field can accelerate advancement, provide mentorship, and create access to opportunities not available through conventional channels. However, the key is value, first networking. Relationships are most powerful when built on genuine contribution, credibility, and demonstrated expertise. Transactional or opportunistic networking without substance yields little. Public demonstrations of skill through online portfolios, published work, or recognized projects serve as evidence of capability and reliability, further amplifying human capital and earning potential. Social media and professional platforms provide unprecedented tools for visibility, allowing anyone starting from zero to establish credibility and connect with industry leaders without traditional gatekeepers. The psychological dimension at this stage cannot be ignored. Transitioning from survival mode to strategic growth requires self-confidence, emotional resilience, and the ability to tolerate risk. Higher-paying roles often involve increased responsibility, scrutiny, and stakes, and the individual must navigate these without succumbing to fear or self-doubt. The disciplined application of skills, preparation, and a mindset oriented toward long-term goals allows calculated risks to be taken with confidence. Each successful step reinforces self-efficacy, creating a virtuous cycle where competence breeds confidence, which in turn enables higher performance and better opportunities. Conversely, Hesitation or indecision delays progress and results in stagnation, underscoring the importance of decisiveness informed by knowledge and preparation. By the conclusion of this stage, the individual has transformed from a person focused solely on survival to one strategically positioned for rapid wealth accumulation. Savings, investments, and human capital have reached a point where incremental gains compound substantially, side ventures supplement primary income, and the individual is positioned to exploit opportunities that were previously unattainable. This phase requires relentless focus, planning, and execution. It is the bridge between mere stability and exponential growth, and it sets the tone for the following stages where financial independence, entrepreneurial ventures, and sophisticated investment strategies converge. At this point, the person is no longer constrained by starting conditions. Instead, they are operating from a position of growing influence, resource control, and strategic flexibility, demonstrating that disciplined effort, deliberate skill acquisition, and consistent financial management can propel anyone from zero to significant wealth over time. At this advanced stage of building wealth, the focus shifts from incremental improvement to scaling influence, creating multiple streams of income and systematically leveraging both human and financial capital. By this point, the individual has already mastered basic survival, discipline, saving, skill acquisition, and strategic career growth. The next frontier is amplification, where every decision and action is designed to create exponential impact rather than linear returns. The mindset required here is fundamentally different from the early phases. One must think in terms of systems, leverage, and long-term compounding effects rather than immediate outcomes. Every hour, every skill, and every dollar is assessed not merely for immediate utility, but for its potential to generate cascading benefits over time. At this level, wealth building is no longer just about personal income. It is about structuring one's life, work, and finances so that resources work for the individual, producing value and returns without constant direct effort. This is the stage where financial independence begins to become plausible and the individual transitions from being a worker to a strategist, orchestrating systems that multiply effort. Creating multiple streams of income becomes a central principle. Diversification of income is not merely a hedge against risk, it is an amplifier of growth potential. Side businesses, freelance consulting, intellectual property, content creation, and investment-generated passive income all contribute to a financial ecosystem that compounds wealth more rapidly than salary alone. The disciplined individual identifies opportunities that align with existing skills and market demand, minimizing risk while maximizing leverage. Importantly, each new stream of income is approached systematically. Research, planning, and testing precede commitment. Spreading effort too thinly across unrelated ventures dilutes results and increases the probability of failure. Therefore, strategic selection, combined with consistent execution, becomes the hallmark of effective scaling. This stage requires not only technical proficiency, but also advanced project management, time allocation, and prioritization skills to ensure that every effort produces meaningful returns. Financial strategy at this stage becomes increasingly sophisticated. While early-stage investing focused on low-cost index funds and compounding over decades, now the individual begins exploring avenues for higher returns, such as diversified equities, real estate, and alternative investments. Asset allocation becomes dynamic. Risk tolerance is assessed in context of long-term goals, and the tax efficiency of every move is considered. The principle of patience remains central, but the individual also learns to capitalize on market opportunities created by volatility, mispricing, or structural inefficiencies. Leverage, in the form of controlled borrowing or reinvestment of existing capital, may be used strategically to accelerate growth without exposing oneself to catastrophic risk. Simultaneously, the psychological discipline cultivated over the earlier phases, resisting consumerist impulses, maintaining focus, and managing fear of loss, remains the critical differentiator between those who achieve substantial wealth and those who merely accumulate assets sporadically. At this juncture, the value of reputation, relationships, and social capital becomes increasingly apparent. Influence is leveraged not merely to gain social recognition, but to create tangible opportunities, partnerships, collaborations, investments, and business growth. Networking is no longer casual, it is strategic, driven, and rooted in value creation. One's credibility, demonstrated competence, and consistent output establish trust, which converts into access to opportunities unavailable to those with lesser preparation. Mentorship, both received and given, accelerates learning and creates reciprocal value chains. The disciplined individual actively seeks environments and associations that elevate thinking, challenge assumptions, and provide avenues for growth. In this phase, the ability to synthesize knowledge from diverse domains, anticipate trends, and adapt quickly is a decisive competitive advantage. The psychological dimension of this stage cannot be overstated. Operating at a higher level of complexity, managing multiple income streams, sophisticated investments, and strategic relationships requires mental resilience, stress management, and emotional intelligence. The disciplined individual cultivates routines for reflection, analysis, and adjustment. Mistakes are inevitable, but they are approached systematically as data for iterative improvement rather than sources of discouragement. Risk is evaluated quantitatively and qualitatively, ensuring that decisions are informed by analysis rather than emotion. In effect, wealth building at this stage is a disciplined practice of decision making under uncertainty, guided by principle, evidence, and long-term orientation. Finally, the compounding effect of disciplined execution across time becomes visible. Skills, income, investments, and networks accumulate and interact in ways that accelerate wealth growth. By now, the individual can leverage previous phases' discipline to create optionality, choices that others cannot access due to constraints of debt, inadequate skills, or lack of financial literacy. True financial independence, defined as the ability to sustain a desired lifestyle without reliance on traditional employment, begins to emerge as a tangible possibility. At this stage, wealth is no longer a distant abstract concept. It is a product of intentional, consistent, and strategically aligned action. This phase demonstrates the power of integrating discipline, learning, leverage, and vision, proving that even from zero, extraordinary financial outcomes are achievable when every decision is oriented toward compounding impact over time.